guess you probably just want to make a mention to the applicant that you only have it's only going to be.
We only have three. Right. Good point.
We're
Although they seemed to be okay with that previously in our discussion.
These are our first two acceptance letters.
Oh.
She's doing great. She got into West Palm Atlantic, which the only reason my husband let her apply to a college in Florida is because it's a Christian college. It is. And then she got into,
So it's not really drivable.
but then she looked into it seriously and was like, they have curfew. I'm like, oh, they're gonna get breathalyzers on your boat. She's like, I don't know about that. Okay.
That's excellent.
And then at Fisher College in Boston.
How's it going there, Tom?
It was like 52 degrees and sunny at one point.
You're in the sunshine.
Yeah, we won't hear for.
You've been out there cracking the ice to get to those trout?
No, I've been working in the store. I was like a cat in a window today. I stood by the door and I felt it was wow, it's kind of warm.
In the sun, yeah, it was nice.
Half an hour I left the office, so it's
Well, I was funny. I sat at 4:30. I sat, made a couple phone calls, put an email together, and then got out of the office and it was dark out. I'm like, we gotta get used to it.
$.
I know. A different covered thing.
How are you doing?
Mary gave her a decent,
my voice, but I think
Fisher gave her a decent merit scholarship, so that's good, but whatever, she'll end up where she is supposed to, right?
I'll speak for you.
As I said to me,
Just do 3 or 4 word bursts, and I'll try to keep up.
Sounds good.
provided I go for the first year, I said my master's. Guess what?
Right.
So I saw that.
How are you? Doing good.
Hi.
Well, we're thinking what we might do so as not to, and we're live otherwise.
Yeah.
First week of January, so precedes the
Yeah,
so that they can that.
I think that's a good plan.
So that's what we're thinking of, because otherwise this will fall, in our next meeting, will fall on Christmas Eve.
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah.
It's nobody's gonna
Christmas
want
Eve
to
doesn't
do
work
that.
for anyone, I can tell. Are you Danielle?
I don't know that one. Yeah. Sorry. No, not that I'm aware of. So, should be interesting. How are you?
Good.
Is it 7? All right. We have all the board members here that we're expecting, so I think we can open up our meeting. Welcome all to this Wednesday, November 19th, Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the Village of Pauling. Will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? All right. We'll do a roll call, please, Amanda.
Sure, we have Chairman Nicholas Forley,
Here.
Member Tom Zarecki,
Here.
and Member Danielle Anderson.
Here.
All right. I just want to bring up to the applicant and the applicant's representatives that this is a board that has 4 members, but only 3 are able to be here tonight. We had discussed this at our previous meeting. We wanted to make sure that you're okay with a 3-member board meeting tonight, and I just want to make sure that that's still okay, or if you have any reservations having only 3 members instead of 4.
Thank you for bringing that up, and we're fine with the 3 members.
You have a choice, obviously, of always making sure you have as many members as we have, but scheduling can sometimes be a little bit difficult, so
Appreciate that.
excellent. The first thing I'd like to do is make a motion to change the agenda for this evening. There's a document that we have to go over called a waiver of, is it a waiver of conflict? A conflict waiver. Vanderwater and Vanderwater, which sends us legal counsel through wonderful Danielle here, has apparently done some business for one of the entities related to Henshin, and I'm going to have Danielle explain what this is, so that for the
Yes.
public record, we kind of have a description of what that possible conflict area.
So just generally,
entails.
Vandewater has represented the principal or a principal of the applicant in a different entity, unrelated matters, having nothing to do with land use. We don't see any information that could be shared or materially adverse to either party, the ZBA or the applicant.
Nor is it in the Village of Pauling,
Correct.
in another municipality.
Okay, excellent. So we've had some explanation there. I'd like to make a motion to the board to authorize that the applicant and I, as chairman of the board, can sign this document, and that way allow us to move forward using our legal
And
representative.
it's my understanding that the applicant has already signed the conflict waiver.
Okay.
Correct, for the
Excellent.
Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
All right, so then I'd like to make a motion to this board that authorizes me to sign this waiver about the conflict. All right,
I'll
Did you have a second?
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's a unanimous vote. I will sign this document now. Pass this to you.
Thank you. I'll have a copy for Amanda as well. Thank you.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is to open up the public hearing, upon which we'll be hearing from representatives of the applicant and any other villagers who would like to ask questions or comment on this as well. So I'd like to make a motion that we open up the meeting for a public hearing. Any seconds? All right, you have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are opening up the meeting for a public hearing, and it looks like Kelly is ready and chomping at the bit to talk to us about this project, so
Very well.
it's all
Thank you.
yours, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a matter of procedure, I did provide the green cards and the white cards to Amanda for the public hearing notice.
Great.
She has those. I'll just do a really brief presentation on this because it is a public hearing, and there may be people who are watching that want the benefit of an overview, even though I know I went over this last time.
Yes, definitely, please.
So I
appreciate
am
that.
Kelly Leibolt, and I'm representing the applicant, Henshin Dairy, on this application. And essentially what we're looking for is an approval of an as-built drawing. And so this is, an as-built is an existing conditions plan. It's a representation of what is there on the property. The property consists of 3 parcels. It's approximately 3.14 acres. It's in the B2 zoning district. And there is an existing building on site that I think everyone is familiar with, Henshin Dairy Eastern Hay Building, the big red building. That's around 12,000 square feet. There's an existing house, which was Margaret's house, that's on the property. And then there's a garage behind Margaret's house. So that constitutes the existing conditions. Those are the existing structures. Access to the site is from Main Street in 22. We did provide a drawing for you, an illustration of the existing conditions, so you can get a sense of where the building is accessed and loading areas and so forth. We are seeking 2 area variances, and I'm going to go into the history of why we're seeking these 2 area variances in a minute, but I'll just go through this very quickly. So section 19.2.32C talks about the required frontage, and frontage is the portion of the property that has to include a building. And your code is a form-based code, and so what it asks for is 80% of that frontage is occupied by a building. And the intent is to really push buildings to the front and parking in the back. Obviously, this is an existing building, and so we don't intend to expand the building to meet this requirement. We provide 20%, and so we're seeking a 60% area variance. I don't think anyone here is asking us to expand that building to be able to meet that requirement. The second area variance has to do with minimum open space, and this is section 19-2.3, paragraph 2F. And your code requires a minimum open space of 25%, and that 25% in the definition has to be maintained in perpetuity. So there needs to be an easement or a deed restriction so that the property is encumbered, and it needs to be defined by a meets and bounds description. So we have gone through and provided, the application for an area variance. There's a 5-point test, and I just want to go through our responses to that very quickly and some narrative. So the first test is, will granting of the variance produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties? So, certainly our opinion is no, it's not going to result in an undesirable change. The building has existed there, I'm sure many of you know longer than I have, nearly 2 decades. So we think the building was built in 2008, which it would be 17 years. It's existed, for this whole duration. It's been utilized for hay and animal feed storage, retail business. And so the truck traffic circulation isn't changing. Everything that's going to continue to operate is consistent with the historic operations. Granting the variances will allow, so this is to the benefit test, so it's allow the property to continue functioning as it has for really many, many decades. And it'll bring the property in compliance with the zoning law without altering the visual or the functional characteristic of the surrounding nature. And so it's important to note here that because there's no really functional changes to the physical site, there's no detriment to the neighborhood. So it's not as if someone's going to drive by and actually see something different the day after these area variances would be granted. When you compare that question to town law, which really prescribes and gives you guidance on what you're looking for here, certainly I don't want to tell the board what they're doing, and I know you're represented here, but you're really evaluating whether or not these variances are going to alter the setting. And so that's an important component, and I think we can all agree that it won't. The second threshold test is, can the benefit be achieved by some other method feasibly for the applicant to pursue other than the variance? So this is about alternatives. And we are responding that there's no feasible alternatives to granting the variance. Clearly, for the frontage, in order to alter that variance, we'd have to expand the building, and no one is interested in expanding the building at this point. They want to leave it exactly as it is. With respect to the open space, so I don't think anyone would argue that there isn't open space on this property right now. There's a barn, there's a house, there's a garage, there's lots of grass, there's vacant land that's unencumbered. The issue that we have is providing open space in perpetuity. And it's important to think about the threshold test for this particular section, this particular question. So under town law, it talks about whether the applicant has any practical alternatives that would avoid or reduce the need for relief. So it would imply that there's an impact. So really the alternatives come into play is whether or not there's a reduction for that relief because of the impact. And it talks about if there's a development project, this is sort of a unique scenario where there's no proposed building. It's an existing condition, and we often look at area variances when there's new buildings. Mm-hmm. And so here we have a scenario where there's no expansion. When it talks about alternatives, generally we're seeing boards ask an applicant to reconfigure a building. It's too close to the property line, or perhaps reduce the size of the building. But in this scenario, again, we're not proposing anything, and there's no new buildings. The third test, or the third question, talks about whether or not the variance is substantial. And substantial is kind of a really unusual semantic word. And oftentimes boards look at substantial as the actual number. So is 25% big? Is 100 feet large? But that's really not what the purpose of that question is. It has to do with whether or not the area variance is substantial given the context of what you're looking at. And so we have written that although the variance is from the number perspective, right, we're asking for no open space, although they may appear substantial in numerical terms, They're not substantial when given the context. So we keep repeating the same thing over here. The frontage variance reflects an existing building condition, and the open space requirement as defined cannot be met without impairing the essential operation of the business. It's important to note, as I had said, that we think that this property, as it exists today, again, existing conditions, functionally provides traditional open space. There's grass, there's trees, there's areas that are unencumbered with buildings. And so they're undeveloped, and though even if it's not recognized under the strict definition of a meets and bounds description and it's being permanently deeded, the property has open space. And of course, this question is mitigated by the fact that this building has been there for over 17 years. When we think about an example of substantial, again, we would think about a developer that's coming in and they're trying to overdevelop the property. They're trying to put 90% of the site with buildings or impervious, and that's not the case here. So that's really an example of substantial. When you're going the opposite way and then the board is saying, okay, we think that this is too much buildings, you could reduce your building size, you could maybe tweak some of your buildings to be able to provide that open space. Okay, so the fourth question is, will the variance have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental neighborhood or the district? And so, again, we say no. Again, because this building has been there forever and this is existing conditions. We're not changing anything. Someone isn't going to drive by 3 weeks from now and say, oh my gosh, they got area variances and now they don't have any open space, or they aren't meeting the condition for the frontage. And when we talk about the threshold test under town law, one of the other items that has to be looked at is review of the site as it operates, so drainage, traffic, access, light, noise. The planning board has looked at this. And so this application has been before the planning board. We have been before them several meetings. Karen can attest to this. We have looked at stormwater, we've looked at lighting, we've looked at traffic flow, access, and so forth. And the board is really in a position to move on this application, but it's subject to this ZBA rendering a decision. So those items have been reviewed by the planning board. Mm-hmm. The last question is the need for the area variance the result of a self-created difficulty on the applicant's part or unique to the property? So I'm going to read a letter for you that I had prepared today. So the hardship is not created or self-created. The building has been there forever. I just want to read a letter, and I apologize that I got this to you very late, but I'm going to read it into the record. I have copies for you. If you'd like it, I can hand them to you, or we can submit them tomorrow. So, dear Chairman, as you are aware, the applicant, Henshin Dairy, is seeking 2 area variances for an existing property located on the lots in the Village of Pawling. To aid in your consideration of the requested area variances, the applicant wanted to provide you with some additional history regarding the property. And it occurred to me at the last meeting that this property, as I'm sure everyone knows, is very important to me. I am ingrained in this project. I've been on it for so long, and I assume everyone knows what I know, but you don't. And so I wanted to give you some history of how we got to where we are. Like, why are we asking for these area variances? And I think this is an important discussion. So it's important that this board be made aware that the reason for the non-compliance, so this building, this property is legally non-conforming, is not because the applicant disregarded the Village of Pawling zoning and building process in 2008 when this building was built. So that's not the case. Rather, at the time that that building was built, many of you know this, the structure was an agricultural building. And so that's a definition in ag markets. And the project did not require a building permit nor site plan approval. And so I provided you with a letter, again, I'll give you a copy of this, from the building inspector in 2008, where he goes through that narrative. Excuse me. In the past year, the use of that building is no longer agricultural. So it's not an agricultural building anymore. And therefore, the applicant has been working with the village. They've been very supportive and agreed, this was not required, agreed to bring this site into conformity. And so the village has a lot of buildings that didn't have building permits or COs, and this was one of them. And the village came and said, we want to clean up our records, and we'd like you to bring this site into conformance. And so since that time, the applicant applied for and received a building permit. The applicant completed a building inspection with the building inspector. They applied for and received a certificate of occupancy, so that cleaned up the building department records. The applicant applied to the planning board for site plan approval. Again, this is all voluntary. And so, again, seeking approval for an existing condition. When we went through that planning board process, we became aware of the fact that there were two components to the site that didn't meet the current zoning code. It's unfortunate, but so that's why we're here. So it wasn't an if the applicant just said, I'm going to put up this building and I'm going to disregard the code at that time and has utilized this building. It was legally and procedurally done at the time, and then now we have this scenario where it's not an agricultural building anymore. It's very common, as I'm sure you know, in Eastern Dutchess, when people have barns and they try to change it for commercial use and so forth. In this situation, the applicant really hasn't changed the use. So there's no proposed improvements to the site. And here, so we're requesting to bring an existing property which has existed in its current state for nearly 2 decades into compliance. So the act of granting the requested variances will in no way affect the setting of the project, the neighborhood, and in fact, because there's no changes to the property, the public would in no way recognize the site any differently. And so I'm submitting this to you because it also serves to address that question is, was this self-created? And so we just want to put that on the record. It was not self-created for all the reasons that I had just explained to you. Under town law, this question, of course, is relevant to the decision that you have, but it doesn't necessarily preclude the granting of the variances if you were to deem it self-created. So we do understand that the village is tasked with reviewing the existing site, and you're balancing the neighborhood impacts with the benefit to the applicant. So that's this threshold test. Here, the applicant isn't seeking any changes which would trigger any impacts. I've gone through that. The building, site, setting, character are going to remain exactly how they had for over 2 decades. And Mr. Chairman, as discussed at the prior meeting that we had before this was a public hearing, the applicant has agreed to condition this area variance on this application only. So the plan that's before you, as we all know, area variances run with the land. And so you would essentially be granting this area variance in perpetuity. We're agreeing to condition, if you agree to this these variances, to this application only. It's an existing condition. There's no modifications. If the applicant comes in and wants to add a building, or the applicant wants to modify a building, these area variances would be nullified. So that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that was a lot. I apologize, but I just wanted to get this history on the record.
It was very thorough, Kelly, and I really
Thank you.
appreciate you giving us the history.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Knowing that this applicant was attempting to be in full compliance in 2008, for me, it's personally important to know that they were trying to follow the rules and things kind of slipped through and things have changed.
Yes.
It's good to hear that that was the history of this project. I appreciate you bringing that
You're
up, and
welcome.
I really like all the details you gave us. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
I don't have any additional questions myself, but I don't know if the other board members have any questions.
What is the use currently now, or what? You know,
It's the same use, but Ag and Market's changed. And so when
what's
Ag and
that mean?
In 2008, the applicant had a retail store
Okay.
and sold hay, grain, and shavings, and that constituted ag protection. But over the years, and really almost about 2 or 3 years ago, Ag and Markets has modified what's considered agricultural. And they feel as if the retail store and some of the components that are sold there don't constitute an agricultural, even though we all know that we're selling hay, that it doesn't fall under Ag and Markets, so they lost that protection.
Right.
Gotcha.
That falls more into the retail category, I guess.
Yes, it's
That's
unfortunate.
their determination. Okay. Wonderful. Ken, was there anything, I know you're the legal counsel for the applicant, was there anything that you wanted to add as part of the public hearing?
I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm supporting these positions. That history is critical.
Yes.
And you know, it's interesting about a case when we handle it and see it from a different perspective. It's critical. I think what's
Ken,
unique
I'm sorry
here.
to interrupt. You might need to come up.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I just think what's
Thank you,
unique
Dick.
here
Just here,
is that the applicant who's seeking this relief based on that history is making clear that we don't intend to stand on that if there is another plan which requires, or another plan that would seek to supersede or replace or amend the existing approval we're trying to get, that this area variance would have no further force or effect. And you can put that in your resolution. And that's a very unique thing, that an applicant would say that, but that's how that's the way we are addressing the issue of,
Sure.
is this substantial? We think that by saying that approving this will allow what's there and was there in 2008 to continue, what reduces or takes the emphasis off the number and onto the impact is that if something changes, if there's another application that comes before a planning board, and the planning board says, we want you to do this under the statute for the open space, then this variance will not stand as a bar to that occurring. This variance will not have that effect, which is, I think, is the way to balance this. That's what you do here, right? You balance these issues. That's it. I like, Kelly's got this better than I
I
do.
could interject too. You're looking at a condition for a temporary
Yes.
variance
that's my
if you're
understanding.
granted, if you're
Yeah.
granting that.
Yeah, from my understanding, what's being proposed here is any variances that might be granted by the board are completely temporary in that they are only valid as long as the site is in its present use and condition. And if any of these 3 parcels are sold off, those variances are null and void. If there is any development of any kind, if there's a new site plan proposed, those variances are null and void. If there is any changes to the pavement and then permeability in any other areas of that land, any major changes, that these would also become null and void. So that's what's being proposed. I think that's what the board is getting from this, and that's part of some of the discussion that I had also had with our legal counsel previous to this.
Understood.
Okay.
Now, is there anything on the property that is not in compliance or currently finished result of the original site plan that may, like, say, some area wasn't paved, but the site plan shows paving? Is there anything on there that you haven't brought up that you don't,
No.
that, okay.
No, because this isn't an approved site plan that we're comparing it to, this is an existing conditions.
Okay.
And so the building inspector has walked the site.
Okay.
He's walked every building.
Sure.
And we have all the building permits on file. Fortunately, we still have the plans for the building on record.
Okay.
And so we submitted those drawings, so the drawings for the building are on file. All the health and safety issues have been addressed. And so he issued the certificate of occupancy, and that was in May. So there's been a whole sequence of events that have occurred. It's sort of it's a very unique situation,
Right.
and it's an unfortunate situation. It is, that, we have to come and do this, and that you have to come and do this. But
Sometimes we have to do some cleanup out of order. That happens
yes, it
every once
is.
in a
It
while.
really is a housekeeping cleanup, and
But
it's bringing
it's
the
best
site.
that everything gets put in order for everybody's
Agreed.
sake, so.
Yes.
So again, you're proposing that there will be no changes. Everything that's gravel will be gravel, everything that's grass will be grass. That little wetland area will stay wetland. The area that's paved between Route 22 and East Main will remain paved, but there will be no changes to pavement, gravel, grass.
Yes, unless grass comes up in the gravel, I can't
Well-
stop that, but there's no intentions. There was a discussion to add an area to the north of to the south of the structure to park trailers, and that has been removed. And so that legal counsel, that everyone understands that that's not being proposed at this time.
And essentially, it appears to me as well, and I want to state this, and if I'm wrong, please somebody jump in. It appears what you're really looking to do here is make sure that you are not in violation of the current codes, you are in compliance so that there aren't fines that are issued. You want to make sure that the current status quo is how it is and that you aren't hit with fines every month because you're
Yes,
not in
be a good
compliance.
neighbor,
And that,
yes.
as long as it stays that way, you're happy and the village will be happy if paperwork's all in order.
Yes, yes, and I think the applicant, it's fair to say, has done a significant effort in trying to clean up the site and remove vehicles and so forth that was there, so I
It
think
has been
that,
very much noticed by people in the village, myself included,
Yep.
that those dozen or so tractor-trailer storage units have been moved.
Yes.
There's only a small number there once in a while, and I guess you guys are storing the rest of them over around the Hannaford's parking lot?
it's an approved site. Yep, that was approved through
Great.
the town of Pauling.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. I said I had no questions, but I kind of did add a few little things in there. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak, ask some questions, get some clarity?
Kelly covered everything.
Okay. We could either vote to close the public hearing, or if we want, we could maybe keep it open in case we might want to have some comment at the next meeting, or do you guys feel like we should close the public comment at this point?
I think we're good.
All right.
And I didn't get any written comment.
No written comments? Okay, so that seems like there's not much reaction on this. So can I have a motion to close the public hearing? And can we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have voted unanimously to close the public hearing. Okay. Kelly, Ken, thank you so much for your presentation. You've clarified quite a number of things for me and the rest of the board. I really appreciate the detail. I very much also appreciate the flexibility that you have representing the applicant about the fact that these variances that are granted are simply valid only for the existing use and structures of that land. And that as soon as anything changes, that they would have to come before the boards again. That makes me personally feel a lot more comfortable about granting these, or at least considering granting them. So thank you very much. All right, I think that about handles it. Karen, was there anything you wanted to add, or?
Are you reserving your decision? I think that's probably
Yeah.
what Kelly is going to
Oh.
ask you next.
Yes, I think, I would like to see the letter, and I think I'd like to reserve calling a vote for a decision. That being said, one of the things we're going to be discussing tonight is scheduling a special meeting in early January that will precede the planning board meeting, so that the progress that you have on this isn't so much held up, because the normal scheduled meeting for the Zoning Board of Appeals would be Christmas Eve this year. So we're thinking that we would probably try to schedule a meeting for early January, but I've got to ask the board about their availability and take a vote.
Okay, yeah, we are scheduled on the December 9th planning board meeting for a resolution for some sort of a decision from the planning board. They, of course, cannot take action until this board takes action. Would you consider tonight authorizing the consultants to prepare a resolution so that we could go back to the planning board and seek a conditional approval?
I think I'm comfortable with that. How does the rest of the board feel about letting the planning board move forward with, Karen?
Sorry, I just want to interject. I'm
Yes.
sorry, everyone, I've lost my voice, but we haven't completed seeker. The applicant submitted a short EAF. I actually am not sure if, can you prepare a resolution if we haven't completed seeker yet? I think so, but I just wanted to make that clear. It's just a draft resolution.
We can prepare a draft resolution, but I would have to check with Ms. Ryan to see, to Karen's point, as to where they are with the planning board. I know that Kelly's making a representation that I believe to be accurate.
Well, I can tell you
Certainly.
that the planning board issued a type 2,
Yeah.
but this is an unlisted action for the zoning board of appeals. And so they've submitted a short form, and so we need to do parts 2 and 3 and make the determination. And now that we have a better clarity as to the conditions that are in play and the additional information about the background, I think we're in a good place, and you could authorize me to prepare those determination documents
Okay.
in tandem with a draft determination on the variances, I
You can,
suppose.
but it's up to the board as to
Yes.
how, when you want to issue a determination.
Right. But we have to have some of these documents prepared before we go for a vote and make a determination.
Yes, typically
So
you
we
would
wouldn't be able to
preparing
do
them.
anything until the next meeting anyhow, because some documentation has to be prepared.
I would agree with that.
So,
Yes, and you are going to address it in other business as to the point of whether or not we can
Right,
put this
right.
on for another, I mean, you could also see if there is another time that you could meet potentially if you wanted to before
December 9th.
December 9th, right?
Yeah, I mean, it
As a
seems
special meeting.
we could do 2 meetings in January, one at the beginning. I think you were mentioning that, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning of January, before the 9th?
It's December 9th.
December 9th.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
December
before I
9th.
said December 9th, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So,
So Kelly, you are looking for some authorization from us so that the planning board can continue. And what is it, I need you guys to kind of step in
it
here and help me out.
essentially
What
would
is it
be a
that?
conditional grant. I mean, if you were inclined to grant these variances, but if you haven't made that determination yet.
Well, and we have to go through the seeker, and we need some documents prepared before we can actually take a vote. So we can't really move forward there
So
at
I
this
think
point.
perhaps there should be a discussion if the board can entertain and wants to move this along, a special meeting to assist.
I mean, the other option is, I know you don't represent the planning board, but we can certainly approach the planning board and discuss with them that there was no objection by the zoning board of appeals and ask the planning board if they would conditionally approve the project subject to the issuance of the variances. So I know this board, the
That may be
planning
a
board
good
has done
solution.
that in the
Do you think that
past.
that's too out of order, or does that work for you? That way, that can at least start to move forward.
It's up to you whether or not you agree with the assessment that there's no objection
Yeah,
to
yeah.
moving forward in that manner.
Okay, well, let me ask the other board members, are you comfortable with allowing the planning board to move forward with their portion of this project, knowing that it is conditional and that we still have to take a vote on it?
Absolutely,
Okay?
yeah.
Are you comfortable? I'm comfortable with that as well. Okay, so let's make a motion to allow the planning board to conditionally move forward with their part of this project and their responsibilities at their next meeting, even though we have not yet taken a vote.
And we all know that if the vote were to, obviously if that changed, we would understand we'd have to go back before the planning board.
Right.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. It
No,
does
we-
help
we
kind of
try-
keep
We try to make things
Yes.
comfortable for people
Keep
who
it
are
in
moving
sequence.
forward. There's
Yep.
a
Thank you.
lot of gears turning and things
A lot of
happening.
time spent.
Oh, yes, I
Oh,
did quite.
yes, we need a second.
All right, we got a second. Thank you, Tom.
And
Got
we need
little
a
second.
vote.
All in favor? Aye, okay. So we've passed that motion to
All right, thank you
conditionally-
very much. And do you want me to just leave you the paper copies so you don't have to
Yes,
reprint it?
that'd be
Okay.
And I'll let you know about a special meeting or what we're looking for.
Somewhere I have them. Hold on one second. Oh, I think
I
they're
think
in my
that's a good
bag. Hold on, let me
compromise.
just grab them. I
A lot
think
of
they're
that
in
was
my
structured
bag.
before, so we delayed them another. And yet, we're not trying to
You can
squeeze something
print
in
'em?
in the
Okay,
next
all
2 or
right,
3
I'll do that.
weeks.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Okay, public hearing's closed as we voted. Next thing is the approval of the minutes from our October 22nd meeting. I've looked over the minutes. They look good to me. Amanda, you do a great job on those. Can we have a motion to approve the October 22nd ZBA meeting minutes? Can we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, okay, the minutes from October 22nd have been approved. In other business, let's talk about scheduling a special meeting in early January. That way, the planning board gets to meet in December. We'll get to meet in January before the next planning board meeting so that they can do that conditional. You're hesitant. Tell me what you think.
No, I mean, I think that's fine, just, I guess the one thing I want to point out is that they don't have to go back to the planning board again after they get a conditional approval.
We all
Right.
approve.
Correct, so you may not need this. You could essentially notice the I guess you could notice it and then not exercise it, just out of precaution, but I think their issue is probably
The planning board at this point.
Right.
And then if we vote in January at the normal meeting time, that would be adequate enough.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they want it to happen as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I just wanted to clarify that the final site plan approval doesn't require a presentation in front of the board. It's just about checking off that you've met the conditions.
Checking the boxes,
Yeah.
I see. All right. How about if I leave it up to, I guess, Amanda, do you want to reach out to the, or would you be more appropriate to reach out to the applicant to see if for some reason they want us to try to squeeze a meeting in early January?
Well, I mean, I think we could assume that they would.
Yeah.
I would say if you're open to it,
If we can
schedule it so
make
it
it
can be
work,
noticed.
yeah.
And then
Okay.
if for some reason
And
it's
if
unnecessary.
there's nothing else that comes in, we don't need to do that second meeting.
Right.
All right, so then, and we really don't have to have it before the planning board's January meeting. Is that correct?
Well,
Well,
you're skipping December, so
Yeah.
that's why
that's
there's
where I
going to be
wanted
a
to-
long time before. But
Yeah.
it potentially could get kicked out to the concern was it could get kicked out to February. I don't know if that's so much of a concern now.
Because our January meeting would be, what, the 22nd,
It's the 28th then.
28th? All
Yeah,
right.
basically, they're going
Wow.
from December 9th all the way to the 28th.
Right.
Right.
I
All right.
did hear from Freddie, and he said the 7th wouldn't work
of January?
Yeah.
Wow, you're fast.
Yeah.
I texted him before the meeting.
Well, the 7th would work for me, and if we have these board members thinking that the 7th might work for them of January for an early month meeting so that we can help this applicant out.
Yeah, 7's good for me.
7th works for you?
Yep.
Did you
Danielle?
just say Freddie can't make the 7th?
Freddie can, but we need 3.
We need, yeah.
The 7th or the 14th is fine on my end.
Yeah,
My concern about the 14th is that I might be traveling that week, and I'm not sure when.
the 14th does not work for me. The 7th works.
Okay, so it looks like the 7th is probably best if we can at least have 3 of us. Danielle, what do you think?
The 7th is fine for me right now.
Okay, so can I have a motion to schedule a special meeting for the Zoning Board of Appeals, an early month meeting of January 7th? Can I have a motion? I'm sorry.
I'll motion to reschedule our January meeting for the 7th.
I think it's in addition to.
In addition, because we're not going to have
Oh,
a
in
December
addition.
meeting.
Add an
So-
addition, a meeting in addition to our
Normal meeting on the
normal
28th,
meeting on the 28th. We'll add the 27th.
the 7th.
Sorry,
That's okay.
7th of January.
Just starting at the top.
2026,
Can I have a
2026.
motion to schedule a special additional meeting in January for the 7th of January?
Yes.
All right, can I have a second?
Second.
We'll just stick to one-word answers here. All right.
It's not Tom.
All in favor of scheduling a special additional meeting in January of the for the 7th of that month,
Correct.
say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have a special meeting. Now, we may not need the meeting on the 28th. It depends if another applicant comes in and needs us. So it's possible we will only have one meeting. Even though it's scheduled, it may not be necessary.
And we should, so if you would reach out to the applicant and
for
make
sure.
sure that they have the availability.
I'm sure they'll
For sure.
appreciate that, too.
Yes.
So,
I think
Yeah, I
Amanda just said
definitely
she would.
And also, I have some other business.
Other
I have to
business.
release escrow funds for 68 West Main Street and 15 Memorial. I understand now that I'm supposed to get your guys' permission to do so.
and these are extra escrow
These
funds
are
that were
the
collected by the
more
village,
reached
but
out
were
to
not
everybody.
spent and needed. And
Right.
so we give this money back to the
Right,
applicants.
they don't
because
owe anymore, there's no more bills. I've contacted the consultants to make sure.
Okay, can we have a motion to release all unneeded escrow funds by one of the members of the board?
I said motion.
All right, can we have a second?
I second.
All in favor of releasing these unneeded escrow funds, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, we have a unanimous vote to give them back their money.
And then the schedule for 2026, because I didn't think we're not gonna be here in December, so we have to do
Yes,
this
and
now.
the only change is the additional meeting in January, which is going to be on the 7th.
So is there anything unusual you want to point out?
There is a December meeting scheduled for next year. I did it earlier.
Yeah, what is it?
And
The
there
16th,
was
all right.
One other special thing that I can't put my finger on right now. I should put a sticky there.
I've looked over the meeting schedule, Amanda. I think it's fine. Any comments by the board members before we vote on approving or not approving?
Oh, and it was November too. I put that the week before Thanksgiving, so we didn't have to do this on the cusp
Yes, because often
next year.
people are traveling, yes.
Right.
Looks good.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve the pending schedule for 2026?
I approve. I motion second.
Can I have a second?
I second.
And all who want to approve, say aye. Aye, okay, we have 3 approvals. Danielle leading the way. All right, excellent. If there's no other business that we need to attend to, Amanda, I think we're good. Danielle and Karen, is there anything that we didn't cover tonight or that you'd like to add to part of the proceedings as part of the public record that we should mention?
No.
No? Okay. I'll motion to adjourn tonight's meeting then, if there's no other discussion.
I second.
Any seconds? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Good meeting, guys, thank you.
Do you need this copy, Amanda, the Vanderwater thing?